This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. We're going to be climbing back into the testimony of William Coleman in the wrongful conviction case of Peter Wilson. I'd like to first invite to the show Harriet Suchet.
Good morning.
His testimony gets even more seedier, so I just kind of wanted to preempt or catch everybody up if you haven't been following along with this particular podcast, which we've segued from the Zodiac at this point to cover a wrongful conviction case, in which case the client, the person that has been incarcerated for 30 years for a murder he did not commit. I am just trying to get his information out there, and we've been reading over the testimony of William Coleman, which is the roommate in the house. So just to kind of catch you up real quick, Mr. Wilson came home from the San Francisco area at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning. He stepped out his back door from his room. He had two doors, one that led outside and one that went inside to the house, but he would commonly come and go from the rear door. And he stepped back out to 7-Eleven to get some snacks and some drinks, and he arrived back home at approximately 3:50 a.m. in the morning to find his landlord dead on the basement floor. He immediately after seeing this had ran to the other roommate's room and pounded on the door, yelling his name, Mr. Coleman, or William, I found Gene, kind of thing. And the door didn't open. So he actually opened Mr. Coleman's door. And when he opened that door, he found Coleman standing up wide awake on the other side of that door, fully dressed. He had pants, shirt, shoes, sweatshirt on, looking like he was ready to actually leave for the day for work, which was odd because he didn't work at 4 o'clock in the morning. He had the swing shift. He worked from 11 to 7. So here we're going to pick up where the testimony of William Coleman is being asked in regards to how he was dressed, why he was dressed. So we're going to pick up from there and we're going to move forward. So basically he was asked the question, and what kind of shoes were those? Answer, loafers like these type. Question, were they in fact those shoes? Answer, no, they are brown ones. Those are another color. Question, when you got up Sunday morning, could you hear knocking on the door? Did you put on your shoes? Answer, yes. Question, right away? Answer, quickly. Question, and you wore shoes with you as you followed Mr. Wilson to the basement? Answer, yes. Question, and you, any particular reason you put your shoes on? Answer, I put them on. So he never really, again, can you see how he's not answering these questions, Harriet? He's asked any particular reason. He just says, I put them on.
Can I interject one little thing in this? That caught me the last time too. Okay, so it's like he's putting on his shoes because he can't wear them in the house. But if it was just his socks, if his hair and stuff was on his socks, it could logically link him to something there inside the house. You know what I'm saying?
He lives in the house. It's not a question of linking anything because he lives in the house. You're going to expect to find his hair, his DNA, his fingerprints, all of these things in the house. The question here is how is he completely dressed at 4 o'clock in the morning when Mr. Wilson knocks on his door, yelling for him to come help because he's found the landlord dead at the bottom of the basement floor. And not only does Coleman not answer the door, but when Wilson barges in, he finds him standing there fully dressed. Now, mind you, you've got to imagine that this is probably a panic-stricken situation. It's happening very quickly. You know, when Mr. Wilson is running down the hallway yelling, "William, William, I found Jean," and pounds on the door and gets no answer, and then opens the door immediately. This all probably happened in a matter of seconds. So this is why this testimony from Coleman is so fishy. So he says, the next question from the defense attorney is, normally you wouldn't put your shoes on, would you? And the answer, nope. Question, what made you think about putting your shoes on at 4 o'clock in the morning? Answer, I put them on. That was it.
Well, it gets back to the same basic point. Let's say he is allegedly the real killer and he got blood on his socks. Did they check him for that? You know, they had the shoes on. Did they see that's where fishy?
We're gonna cover all of those things. You're not focusing on the point. He's not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Yeah.
So he is dressed in his room with his shoes on, actually looking like he's ready to leave the house. Probably
that makes him suspicious.
It's very suspicious. He's doing something out of character when something such as a death has occurred inside of the house. So he says, the next question is, okay, are you sure you didn't walk around in bare feet following Mr. Wilson? Coleman's answer is nope. And the defense attorney says, but Mr. Wilson knocked on the door. You were already dressed. He said, nope. You didn't already have shoes on and pants and a sweatshirt? Nope. That sweatshirt that you put on, did you go to bed with that on? Nope. So the point behind this particular testimony is that he claims that Wilson never said anything other than knocking on the door one time, and in that time frame he jumped up, got dressed, put on shirt, shoes, pants, sweatshirt, and was fully dressed inside of one knock without Wilson saying a word. Good morning, Nolan.
Yep, I was waving at you, Nolan.
What's that?
I hear you.
Ooh, your sound is crackly.
Oh, okay, hold on. Oh, now I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's very crackly, very weird.
I'm at a public place.
Yeah, your microphone is not sounding good at all.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'll try and keep my comments brief.
Yeah, because we can't understand any of it. That's okay. All right, so back to some more testimony here. Defense attorney asked, you put that on after you got up? And Coleman answers, yeah, I put it on quickly. And question, before Mr. Wilson, before you made contact with Mr. Wilson? Answer, yes. Question, when was the last time you laundered that shirt? Answer, I do my washing on Sunday. I take my wash to Sunday to the washer. Question, do you know whether or not there was any blood on that Stanford shirt? Answer, nope, there wasn't. Wasn't. He's jumbled. Wasn't. Another question. Do you remember what you wore to work on the 30th? Answer, no. Question, did you wear that sweatshirt? Answer, the sweatshirt because it's cold riding a bike. As far as another shirt, I'm not sure. I would be so frustrated with this guy because you cannot get a straight answer out of him to save your life. Question, did you wear that shirt while you were at work? Answer, no, I took it off and put it in the closet. Question, and you put it on when you went home? Answer, I put it on at the restaurant, came back, ride the bike back home because it's colder. Question, when you got home, you take that off that sweatshirt? Answer, yes. Question, when you took it off, do you know what you did with it? Answer, I went to my room, took it off, put it in the table, on the table. I put my pants on this table. He didn't ask about the pants, but I'm glad you're oversharing. Question, let me show you what has been marked as defense O. Ask you to look at that. Do you recognize that as your sweatshirt? Answer, that's correct. And so that means they took pictures of him in the sweatshirt, or they took pictures of the sweatshirt. He said, question, and that is the one with the Stanford on it. Answer, that's correct. Question, now you notice above your wrist area below the D appears to be a spot there. Looks like a red spot. Answer, yes. Question, do you know what that is? Answer, I have no idea. Question, did you have any blood on that shirt? Answer, nope, I didn't have any blood on the shirt. Question, none that you're aware of? Answer, not that I was aware of. Question, do you know what that red spot could be? Answer, no. Oh, you've got some feedback going on again there, Nolan.
Yeah,
Nolan,
maybe I should try it on my phone because
something because that's horrible sounding, and it's causing feed. All right, okay. Do you know what that red spot could be? Answer, nope. Question, did you spill anything on that shirt that you remember? Answer, nope. Question, are you pretty sure that is not blood? Answer, I'm not sure about that. Question, okay, did the police take this shirt? Answer, no. And it's always nope. It's never no or
No.
Either way, the police didn't take his clothing. They took Wilson's clothing. So there's your answer to that particular question. But it does appear as though they took pictures of it. And obviously there is some red spots on it that they're questioning as to whether or not they were blood. But why they didn't take this shirt when they took everything from Wilson, it's just beyond me. They basically set in their minds on the morning of the 31st when they arrived and found Jean, basically is what they called her. When they found Jean dead on the basement floor and the police came in, they immediately took every effort to put Wilson as the suspect by way of taking his clothing, taking a rape kit, a GSR kit. Like they did everything to pretty much hem this guy up from the very beginning.
I would love to see pictures of the socks.
Obviously they didn't take anything from him.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they were getting the pictures, see, there's something wrong with that whole situation. It's just like you're pointing out, he's dressed in 1 second. No.
1 second. Yep. That's the fastest get dressed, wake up from your sleep.
He went like this. It was like, I dream a genie and dressed.
He twitched his nose. So the testimony is, as it continues, is question, you still have it? Answer, yes. Question, did the police take any physical clothes from you? Answer, nope. What the F? I don't even begin to understand. Why did you take it from Wilson, but not from Coleman? When you came home Saturday night, was there anything on the stove that was left over from anyone having apparently cooked any meal? Answer, nope. Question, there was no pots or pans or anything? No. Were there any dirty dishes in the sink? Nope. Do you know whether there was any dirty dishes? I didn't. Okay, so sorry, let's skip to the next section of this because I found that one was kind of boring. He's asking about dishes that didn't exist. Question, okay, how about the turkey? Is that answer, just turkey slice, sandwich meat, just put 2 pieces of bread and put in microwave for 1, made a sandwich. Question, that is Friday night. Answer, that is correct. Question, what about the microwave dinner that you had on Friday night? Where did that come from? Answer, that was Saturday. Question, that is on Saturday night? Answer, I had a microwave meal on Saturday night. Question, that is the night that you had dinner with Miss Kim. Answer, that is correct. Holy crap, that right there should have stopped the entire, I'm going to lose my crap right now. You guys, just reading that particular question that Mr. Coleman had dinner with the victim Saturday night while Wilson was gone tells you that she wasn't killed between 12:48 and 1:58 p.m. on Saturday. I'm absolutely sticking to my stomach by this because here we have this testimony that's being read off to the jury, and the jury is being instructed or told by the DA that Miss Kim was killed between 12:48 p.m. and 1:58 p.m. on Saturday. And now we have testimony, direct testimony from Coleman saying that he had dinner with her that night. Blech. It just makes me sick. Question. In fact, one reason you were confused here is because you had dinner with Miss Kim on Friday and on Saturday night. Isn't that true? Answer. Not on Saturday night. What?
Saturday in the early AM.
No, that would have been Sunday.
It's still night.
No, that would have been Sunday early AM. The point here, though, is that he just got done confirming that he had a microwave dinner and he enjoyed a dinner with Kim on Saturday night. Now, when he's being asked, you had dinner with Miss Kim both Friday and Saturday night, he's saying, no, not on Saturday night. So which is it? I mean, honestly, he recalls that the night he had the microwave dinner was Saturday night and that he, in fact, had dinner with, it sounds to me like he realizes that now messes up the entire role of the chronological order in which the DA is trying to set up. And he's now attempting to correct that by saying he didn't have dinner with her on Saturday night. I believe the earlier testimony is actually probably more factual. For him to remember the microwave dinner, to remember that was Saturday night, not Friday night, and that he had had dinner with Miss Kim. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and then the early AM is still night, but he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's answering, how he's helping frame stuff.
Did you catch any of that, Nolan?
Yeah.
The whole part about
he changed his testimony about the dinner.
Well, he very distinctively remembers which night he had the microwave meal and that he actively ate that meal with Miss Kim, which puts her alive at 8:30 or so when he got home. He says he came home from work and he, made his meal, and now he's specifically, he corrects the defense attorney by saying that the microwave dinner was not Friday night, it was Saturday night, and that he had had dinner with Miss Kim. So for him to come back and now say not on Saturday night, like, it just blows my mind that nobody picked up on this. So question, you just said that you did. So basically the defense attorney saying you just said that you did have dinner with her Saturday night. His answer, I had dinner with her many times. It's hard to figure out what day in that 2 days. But he just got done saying he had dinner with her both Friday and Saturday night. So it's not a question of which day, because you just stated you had dinner with her both days. Question, when you called 911, do you remember making that phone call? Answer, yes. Question, do you remember telling the police that Miss Kim had been dead for 4 or 5 hours? Answer, no. Question, did you, as I say that now, does that ring a bell? What did you tell them? Answer, nope, I don't remember saying that. Mr. Periskew, I think, Your Honor, we have a stipulation at this point. An examination of the 911 tape, People's Number 9, was played for the witness. Ms. Condren, that is correct. The court, all right? Mr. Periskew, question by Mr. Tondro. So did you hear you say 4 or 5 hours? Answer, yes or longer. So now he said 4 or 5 hours or longer is his testimony. Question. So why did he have to hear the 911 tape to know that he said it? Again, I feel like he's honestly attempting to deceive the court when he's giving many of these answers. Okay, question. That would make you think she had, what would make you think she had been dead for 4 or 5 hours? Miss Condren, Mr. Luroff, the record should show that the person was asked by the operator, do you know how long she has been dead? And the person said, I don't know, a long time maybe, said 4 or 5 hours. I don't even believe that's accurate. I believe that if we went back to the 911 recording, that what she just stated there is a little bit off from what we read. A long time maybe, I don't remember him saying that, but we'll go back and look at that. Okay, let's see. By Mr. Tondro, where do you come up with 4 or 5 hours? Answer, okay, to me, the blood on the under, not the steps by her head, it was dry. She'd been there a long time. The basement is cold, and... Still didn't answer why he felt 4 or 5 hours. Question, do you have any training in terms of looking at blood and making an estimate? Answer, nope. Question, where did you come up with 4 or 5 hours? Because there's dried blood? Answer, I just said been there at least 4 or 5 hours too. Question, in fact, the lighting was pretty bad at that spot in the basement. Answer, like I said, I could see Miss Kim's face though. Question, even though there was a brick fireplace between the light, I don't mean fireplace, brick fireplace or chimney between the light and her head. Answer, I could see her face and her breasts and her exposed in the light. Yes. Question, you could see that her face was pale? Answer, yes, like all white, no color. Question, did you touch anything when you went down in the basement? Answer, no, I didn't touch anything. Now, if we remember before, you guys, he never went into the basement. He stopped at the 3rd stair was his claim, and he couldn't see down past Mr. Wilson because it was a narrow entryway into the basement. So how he could see around Mr. Wilson is beyond me, but now he's answering that he didn't touch anything when he went down into the basement after stating he never fully went down. Let's see. Questions?
Yeah. His testimony is really fishy. And if I'm the defense lawyer, I tear him apart on cross-examination and also in final argument to the jury. His testimony is wishy-washy.
It's crap. It's complete crap. He's answering questions.
Right.
He's answering the questions with specificity. My tongue doesn't want to work this morning. With actual memories, you know, the microwave meal being on Saturday night, having had dinner with Miss Kim. But then when asked the direct question, so you had dinner with her Saturday night, he's saying no. So I tend to believe where he is more specific about the memories of the microwave meal. All right, let's see. All right, so he was asked if there was any handrails, and his answer was no. Did you touch anything above you to stabilize yourself? Answer, nope. Did you see Mr. Wilson touch anything? Answer, nope. Question, not at all? Answer, nope. Question, did you see him touch the piece of wood across Miss Kim's? Answer, nope. We already heard testimony from Coleman where he said that Mr. Wilson was trying to lift that 4x12 off of her.
So he's down in the basement. That's why I would be interested in seeing pictures of those socks, which
okay. I can't keep focusing on socks. We don't have any, but I can't keep focusing on something we don't have. Period. They didn't take pictures. It wasn't entered into evidence, and they didn't take any of his clothing from him. So, question, did you see him move it as if he was going to do that? Answer, nope. Question, did you see him touch the ceiling above him? Answer, nope. Question, you testified when Mr. Luroff was asking you questions that Mr. Wilson may have moved around a little bit. Is that right? Answer, yes, he was moving around. Question, how much time did you spend moving around? Or did he spend moving around? Answer, maybe 20, 30 seconds, something like that. Question, and is that basically how long you stood there looking down at Miss Kim, 20 or 30 seconds? Answer, yes, something like that. Question, how long did you stay there looking at Miss Kim? Answer, maybe 30, 40 seconds. Question, 30 or 40 seconds? Answer, yes. Question, and during that 30 or 40 seconds, you see Mr. Wilson at the bottom of the stairs moving around. Answer, that's correct. Question, what is he doing? Answer, he said he was trying to move the board off Miss Kim. Question, so he said that? What did you see him do? Answer, I didn't see anything. I didn't see him do it. So now he didn't see anything. Before he could see Miss Kim's face, her breasts, her exposed body, her paleness, the dried blood, all these things he can describe, but he now doesn't see Mr. Wilson doing anything. Question, were you watching what he was doing? Answer, yes. Question, were you watching what he was doing? Why did they ask that twice? Miss Condren, objection. And I don't know what her objection is, but Mr. Parskew says, excuse me. Mr. Parskew, you were watching what he was doing. Answer, what? Watching him? But I couldn't see what he was. He was turned his back sometimes not. I'm so confused. Question, could you see he was bending over? Answer, no. Question, could you see whether he was squatting down? Answer, no, sir. Question, is there anything that you could see that you saw him do while he was in the bottom of the stairs? Answer, no. Question, is that because the lighting was bad? Answer, no. Question, why is it that you couldn't see what he was doing? Answer, I just couldn't see what he was doing. Question, were you paying attention? Answer, nope. You're not paying attention in the middle of a freaking murder scene? I would be gawking so heavily, probably in shock, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, Question, did he ever step away from the bottom of the stairs? You know, there is kind of a last step at the platform. That is where the body was. Answer, yes. Question, did he ever step away from that area for you? Answer, no. Question, he was always on the flat platform. Answer, yes. Question, when you were up making the 911 call, could you hear Mr. Wilson in the basement? Wilson was shouting to you through the door. Answer, no. Question, was Mr. Wilson shouting to you through the door? Answer, no. Question, let me show you a page of a report prepared by Officer Trio. Would you read the first sentence in that paragraph right here to yourself? Answer, yeah. Question, do you remember telling? Answer, yes, I remember saying that. Question, what did you tell him about Mr. Wilson shouting? Answer, he said, William, I jumped up and I put my pants on. Hold on, and your shirt, and your shoes, and your socks, and a sweatshirt. Question, slow down, keep your voice up. Answer, okay. Question, was he shouting anything other than William? Answer, no. Question, did you hear him shouting about Jean? Answer, no. Question, are you certain about that? Answer, I'm certain about that. Question, did you only hear Mr. Wilson knock on the door one time? Answer, yes. Question, was there anyone in your room with you when Mr. Wilson knocked on the door? Answer, no. So that is the end of what we have for Mr. Coleman's testimony. I think that everybody can see how heavily confused this individual is in his answers and what that literally means to the freedoms of Mr. Wilson, because I think that we had all the answers we needed to have right there that blew apart the DA's case and suggests that the murder did not occur between the hours of 12:48 p.m. and 1:58 p.m. on Saturday, since Kim was alive and eating dinner with Mr. Coleman at approximately 8:30, 8:45 p.m. on Saturday evening, while Mr. Wilson was still off in San Francisco getting his hand bandaged from the taxi cab driver slamming it in the car door and breaking, I guess, some fingers and ripping off a fingernail. In which case there is testimony, there is medical records, there is a incident report filed by the cab driver in regards to the injury and having, done that injury to Mr. Wilson. So I really hope that he does get this writ of habeas corpus based on some of this information. Now it starts to get a little bit more interesting because now we get into handwriting. I was actually provided with the handwritten receipts that Mr. Wilson had received from Miss Kim in regards to paying rent, and a contract that we're going to talk about, which I didn't even know about until Harriet had actually researched and found information in regards to them claiming that Mr. Wilson had killed Kim in order or in an attempt to take over her house, right? That was kind of the article you read.
Yeah, it would be the basics of the idea of why, the theory as to why it happened.
Okay, so we're going to blow that theory out of the water right now. So Linda Condren introduces false evidence that Mr. Wilson forcefully sat Kim down on Saturday between 12:48 p.m. and 1:58 p.m. to write receipts for September, November, and December, and the public defender did not object to the introduction of that evidence. In fact, there would be no reason to sit her down before killing her to write receipts for rent 6 to 7 months previous. Why sit her down in March and force her to write a rental receipt for September, November, December? Like, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. If he hadn't been paying rent, I would think that he would have forced her to write them for the current months that he was there, right? March, February, something recently to cover CYA.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense.
No. So, nor would Mr. Wilson want to kill Kim. She actually owed him 9 months of free rent rent-free living in exchange for interest of $525 a month in lieu of a loan that Mr. Wilson actually gave Kim of $300,000 that shows she was to pay back by the end of 1996. So they actually had a forensic document examiner involved in this case. It was Lloyd Cunningham. He testifies that Kim actually wrote the receipts and signed the contract that we're going to be looking at. So a little bit of background on Lloyd Cunningham. I've had a couple instances with him. Some may actually know him as one of the original document examiners in the Zodiac killer case. Mm-hmm. We have never really had any pleasantries by any means. I did handle a case for a client. It was about a $380,000 fraud case where the daughter of a man that was basically, going through dementia and Alzheimer's type issues. And she had, she had applied for all kinds of credit on the internet. He was a good old boy Italian, mattress money, wrote checks for everything, paid cash for everything, didn't have credit. Now he's over $80,000 in debt. There's wills that have been forged. I'm there to represent my client, who is the current wife of this individual, to indicate that these are forged wills. And it turns out that Lloyd Cunningham ends up on the opposite side of the case. And of course, I knew that he was up there. I knew that there was the good old boy system going on because all three of them, Lloyd Cunningham, the judge on the bench, and the opposing counsel, were all talking about having tickets to the game that night and that they needed to make sure they were out of there by 4:30. That's when I first knew. That was in Alameda. I think it was Alameda County, Walnut Creek. I'd have to go back and check. It was the Richard Scagliola case. And of course, that case, they won. The opposing side won. And I was so brokenhearted because I knew that Lloyd Cunningham was in on it. I knew that he was lying just based on the fact that they were all talking about having tickets to the game together and they were going that night, that we had no chance in hell of winning this case based on the facts. About 10 months afterwards, I was contacted by the very man who hired Lloyd Cunningham. And he had now been defrauded by the same girls that I was against in that courtroom. He said that he was a former link analysis detective for the San Francisco PD. And he is good friends, or was good friends, with Lloyd Cunningham. He asked Lloyd Cunningham to defend his stepdaughter, knowing that she was wrong. And he had indicated to me that he had saved her many times over her childhood and adult years. Every time she got busted and brought home by the police, they would just release them to him because
I'm fucking hell interested.
The what? I heard that.
Somebody wants to contribute to the conversation.
Right. So basically, I had firsthand conversation with the individual who hired Lloyd Cunningham, knowing that Lloyd Cunningham was getting up there to lie. And unfortunately, this man died about another 11 months afterwards, because when he contacted me, he reached out to me because he had been in the hospital suffering from MRSA while I was handling the case in court. And while he had half his foot removed, was waiting for the mother of the daughter that I was going up against to show up to pick him up from the hospital. Nobody showed up to pick him up. So he had to take a cab home from the hospital after suffering all that he had gone through while he was there. He gets back to his house in the Pacific Palisades, and he finds that 75% of his house has been removed. These girls, while he was in the hospital, went in and emptied out his house, basically. He invited me up. I got to come to his house. We sat down. We talked. It was very disheartening to know that there was some, and I get it. I know that there are people out there capable of doing this. Call in a favor, you'll get somebody off, especially if you have that kind of pull being in the police or, knowing people like Lloyd Cunningham. But shame on you, Lloyd Cunningham, for getting up there and lying to the court and allowing this woman to turn around and actually deprive the very individual who asked you to help her from all of his livelihood, basically. And I think that due to the severe stress and they also went into his bank and cleared out his police. So he had a retirement fund and account from having been with the police. They cleared out that bank account. So this man suffered so much stress after coming home and going through something as tragic as MRSA and losing half his foot, I think that the stress and the being overwhelmed and his age and everything took its toll, and he died shortly after. So I never actually got to go up against these girls again. But Lord
Did
help me
they
if
have
I
a
ever
power of
find them.
attorney? How did they get bank access?
Because the wife was on the account, which is the mother of the
Oh,
daughter. Right,
Okay.
right. And it's even crazier is that when the mother married, his name was Tom Dickinson. When the mother married him, he adopted the girl who then defrauded her biological father. So this girl had no care or concern for her father ever, obviously, to allow another man to adopt her. And I believe that he adopted her after she was 18. So she takes this man's last name long after she, is an adult now, and then turns around and takes her father and defrauds everything that she can, and then forges a will giving her half of the house that him and his current wife had owned, forcing my client to have to sell her house or buy them out. It was absolutely disgusting. Thank you,
terrible.
Lloyd Cunningham. Yep. So there's a little background, but obviously he was true and correct in this particular case by stating that these were written. I don't see any indications in this handwriting of what I would consider to be stress, or undue influence. I would expect that if she's scared, if she believes her life is in danger, that we are going to see tremors and shakiness and things going on. You don't see any of that in these receipts. But again, these receipts have no bearing on anything, and nobody would force you to sit down and write something for 6 months back. It makes absolutely no sense. So
What I find odd about the whole situation is, who the heck loans someone $300,000 just out of nowhere?
I'm gonna explain that now. So Kim told Wilson that she was unable to sell her rental house in San Jose and had to refi her Palo Alto home in order to cover the mortgage payment. She needed 300. I don't know why 300K became the magic number, but it sounded like she had $300,000 in equity in her Palo Alto home that she could tap into. And she stated there's a couple stories. One was she was behind on her mortgage. The other was that it was supposedly going to be used for some type of investment. And that's what Peter had discussed with his friends that were interviewed. And we're going to talk about those interviews. But Wilson went to an attorney, and he spoke to an attorney to ask him, what the thoughts were about doing this. So basically, if she took the 300K from the mortgage company, she would have paid approximately $6,200 in interest over that 9 months before paying it back. So she claimed she was going to pay it back by the end of December of 1996, and that would have cost her $6,200. So she was going to save money if, in fact, Wilson loaned her that money. Then in lieu of interest, which with the $525 a month in rent, he wouldn't have to pay rent for the next 9 months. So that's where the story comes in, where they tried to state that he wasn't paying rent. No, he didn't have to. He had an agreement. He had a contract with Kim to loan her the $300,000 for 9 months, and he would live rent-free for those 9 months. And here is that contract. And I looked through this contract, Harriet, and there's nothing that states if she defaults on this particular note, this is a personal loan, basically, that there's anything that indicates that he would have access to her home entirely if she defaulted. So it shows the $300,000 loan contract confirmed by Lloyd Cunningham as being signed by Kim, and Claude Cam signed as a witness. This is one of the people that were interviewed that took Wilson to the bank to get the $300,000 out of the safety deposit box. He accompanied Mr. Wilson back to his house and sat there and ate some pizza with him, watched Mr. Wilson walk out of the room with the money in the contract that was not signed at that point in time into the main part of the house, had Kim sign it, dropped the money to her, came back in. Now Claude witnesses the fully executed contract, and he signs as a witness to this contract. So let's see. I think we just covered all of that. Claude stated he did not see Kim or watch her sign it, but signed as a witness to the contract being executed by both parties. Another friend, Sharif, who was also aware of this agreement between Mr. Wilson and Kim, and both friends stated that Mr. Wilson was a nonviolent person. They could not see that he would have been somebody to have physically attacked anybody. Now, first trial in November of 1998. Evidence was presented that Kim, her sister Hua Chu Shin, and her son Richard Kim was involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. Richard Kim went to prison for this. Mr. Wilson also discovered that Kim did not own a home in San Jose, so she lied, saying that she couldn't sell this rental house, but once she did, she'd pay him back. There was no house to be sold. Sounds to me like Kim is up to some nefarious stuff herself. And she was behind in her payments in the Palo Alto home, but Mr. Wilson didn't find any of this out until afterwards in trial. Kim's family also never returned the $300,000 to Mr. Wilson, so we don't know what happened to this money, but I have a theory. On 8/4 of 1988, Richard Don Kim and Wendy Ann Estrada were charged with 1351, possession of narcotic controlled substance for sale. Search warrant found 3/4 ounce of cocaine and an house scale and 6 baggies containing marijuana totaling over an ounce found in the bedroom. In the kitchen, they found plastic baggies, zigzags, and approximately 1/4 gram of loose marijuana. In the garage, they found 3 plastic baggies with cocaine, each containing about an ounce, a 3-beam scale, and Richard's 1987 white Ford Mustang. Outside, a 1983 Mercury Capri, actually owned by the Elite Cleaners, which is Kim's business, owned by Hokju Kim. In the backyard, 2 marijuana plants 18 inches tall that Richard claimed were there when he moved in, but a hose leading to them shows he was cultivating them. The search warrant of...
Oh, you want to finish this? Because you're venturing now into my territory. That's Pablo Escobar.
Let's watch this go because it gets even more interesting. Search warrant of Richard's car found $22,020 wrapped in a grocery bag and then wrapped in 2 large plastic bags, noting that the bags reeked of marijuana. And 8/5 of 1988, Hokju Kim shows up to the police department with her sister Shin, who supposedly doesn't speak English, claiming that the Mustang was owned by her and her son, that her and her sister took the car the night before the arrest warrant was served, shopping, and that Shin had with her $24,000 she had removed from the bank to appear semi-poverty in order to apply for low-income housing, that her and Shin put $22,000 in the trunk and took the remaining $2,000 into the Oriental Market with them and failed to remove the other $22,000 before returning the car to Richard Kim. Bullshit.
Really?
Bullshit. It sounds to me that mom was very well aware of what son was doing. And son is doing it in a car, and if she's driving a BMW, why does she go all the way to her son's house in another town to borrow the Mustang? So I think that literally he may have been looking at some trouble from the drug dealers that he probably owed that money to for the sales, or she just didn't want to lose that cash. Either way, she was willing to perpetrate a con on the police department and show up and state that that money belonged to her sister in order to get it back out of evidence. I don't know what the disposition of that was.
Well, can I say something really quick? Okay, Pablo Escobar was the big guy then, the big guy. He dies early to mid 1990s.
Okay, I'm not
sure. Money. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Then the next up is the Cali cartel, which was big in the Bay Area.
Right.
So if they owed money back there,
I don't want to like start theories about who they were selling for. We just know that they are literally trafficking drugs 100%. The cars are owned by Kim and her son. That one of them is actually registered to the business itself. So it sounds to me like Kim has more going on here than others knew about. The question now becomes what she needed that $300,000 for, right? I mean, honestly speaking, why did you need $300,000? Invest in what? Or did she owe big money to somebody? Was she money to
why didn't Wilson get security for the loan, like a deed of trust or something?
Well, he didn't know that. You got to think that this contract's written on March 1st. She dies on March 31st. So I'm starting to wonder once again, this vehicle that was under the car cover that, I mean, who parks? I'm not going to pull up to my friend's house and break out my car cover and cover my car. Somebody has to have a very expensive vehicle, or they don't want it to be seen by somebody to take that kind of care of their vehicle. Now, was that person part of the drug trafficking and the money laundering and the person who killed Kim? Who knows?
But when her car is gone. Isn't it part of the theory that whoever drove that other car went with her in the Beamer when the Beamer's gone?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because when Coleman returns home, Miss Kim's car's back in the driveway and there's no car underneath the cover.
And the other car's gone. Yeah.
Right. That's another sign that Miss Kim was still alive at 8:30 at night.
But that's also a sign that she knew whoever had the other vehicle.
Yes, 100%. So I viewed all the police reports in regards to this incident. Now, if there were the case, if this were the case and Hak Ju Kim got herself involved in a money laundering and drugs with her son, one would have to wonder who she was indebted to and if Officer Yor was on the take from the very people who killed her. There's motive to blame Mr. Wilson as a patsy and to close the case on him as fast as possible if my theory that Mr. Coleman left the country because he saw what happened to Mr. Wilson rather than being the killer himself. So I'm still up in the air. I know that Coleman is lying out his teeth for some reason, but it may also be because he's just scared to death. That's
that he'll be the next patsy.
Exactly. So he's back and forth, doesn't know what, he's saying, doesn't remember what he said, and he's basically just outright lying about things.
And he allegedly went to Mexico, right? He went to Mexico?
Purportedly, that's at least.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, allegedly.
Yeah.
If he was in on something, he's gone now.
I reached out to some to some innocent projects on behalf of Mr. Wilson. I did get the information and intake forms out to him this last week, along with some follow-up questions like where did the $300,000 come from? I think there was a couple questions that I had in there that were posed by Nolan in one of our last episodes. So hopefully I'll get those answers and there'll be just a short follow-up that will come, and we're going to be climbing right back into the Zodiac next week. I'm excited, guys. We'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
But anything else you guys want to add, comment on that?
No, I just find there's just so many red flags, so many weird things going on here, and I know if I was loaning $300,000, I'd do a background check. I would get a deed of trust. I made a mistake of loaning $3,000 and not getting security, kicking myself in the butt for that.
I suppose that even though it was a personal note with nothing backing it, that if she failed to pay, he could have probably taken a lien on her property for it.
Perhaps.
Right? I mean, she owes him the money. He's got the contract. There's no fighting that. She has an asset that can be tapped. Right?
Yeah.
And hopefully it may or may not even have the equity that she claimed that it had in it. I mean, again, we already see that she's lying. She's manipulating. She is, at a minimum, I think the money laundering, if it doesn't come into play with the sister supposedly taking this money from her account so that she can look or appear poverty ridden so she can apply for low income housing, which is all dastardly by itself. How do you come to this country and attempt to use it?
Yeah, well, a lot of people do.
I tend to believe that's not even really the truth of the story. I believe that Kim was trying to get that money back because it was owed to drug dealers.
Well, can I say something really, really quick? This is reeking of the Escobar cartel and Cali cartel, where if a family member is somehow mixed up in this drug mess, they have the innocent family member killed to blackmail the other person. And they're very influential in all kinds of court people. I mean, it's big. So
well, you know what
avenue.
I did some research and I actually found, we got 1 minute, but I actually found a Richard Don Kim in Saratoga, California, which is a very affluent area, right, Nolan?
Yes, it is. Yeah, really nice.
All right. And purportedly, if I've got the right person, which I believe I do because it links the same address, it shows that he's a president for some company called Landmark LCDs Inc. So that comes into, and that's making LCD screens for different devices. If this is one and the same person, then the possibility is that $300,000 was invested into him. Either way, Mr. Wilson
so he
his
can
money back.
Develop his company. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now it's to follow the money. Where did it go to? Who ended up with it? It was certainly handed over to Miss Kim. What did she do with that cash? So there's much more investigation that could go here if somebody wanted to take the time to do it. Either way,
she never put it in her bank.
Tracking that money is going to be the key, I think, to who maybe.
If I'm a detective, I go try and find that money. That's one of the first things I do.
I know. All right, you guys, we are at that final hour. You had something else you wanted to say real quick?
Well, for me, I'm just saying this is getting interesting because you're in my territory when it talks to the cocaine stuff. Anyways.
Right. And I guess we won't rightly know. It's definitely out there, but I want to thank everybody for being with us and making it through this wrongful conviction case. I look for that writ of habeas corpus for Mr. Wilson and his freedom to finally be achieved. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank you, you guys.
All right.
Oh,